How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed Hey, Daf 35 of Masechta Shevuos, friends, your friends. Okay, Daf 35, we're going to learn two Mishnayos. What can I tell you? Alright, the Lamed Hey Amud Beis is kind of like a Gadati kind of. Alright, Lamed Hey Amud Aleph at the Mishnah 4 lines into the Daf. Lamed Hey Amud Aleph 4 lines in, says the Mishnah. Now, this Mishnah there's going to be a bunch of cases in the Mishnah, and we're going to go through them one at a time in the Gemurah, okay? I'm kind of like explaining what they are. So, Mashbi ani aleichem, I'm swearing you, imlo tavo v'taiduni, if you better come and testify for me, sha'amar ish ploni litein li mosayim zuz, v'lo nasan. So Shimon says to Levi and Yehuda, come testify for me that Ruvain said that he was going to give me 100 zuzes and he never gave them to me. They're only chai for tvias mammon kipikodim. What does that mean? It means when Ruvain definitely owes the money, right? So for example, if Shimon lent Ruvain 100 zuzes, so Reuven definitely owes Shimon 100 zuzas. The thing is, in this case, Reuven said he was going to give Shimon 100 zuzas. Maybe he changed his mind. So Kilu, they're going to come and testify. They're not going to be mechayiv him to pay. He could say, okay, I changed my mind. I don't want to give it. So therefore, they're not chayiv for that. Mashbi ani aleichem, I'm swearing you, kisha teidu li edus, that if at some point in the future you will know testimony for me, or that when you will know testimony for me in the future, that you will come and testify for me. They are p'turim because the shvua is preceding their testimony, right? They're witnessing. If he stood up in the synagogue, and he says, "Mashbia ani aleichem, I am swearing all y'all, that if you know testimony for me, that you come and testify for me." They are piturin. The Gemara is going to explain this scenario. Omar lishnaim, if he says to two people, Mashbia ani aleichem, I'm swearing y'all. Im ish ploni ploni and ploni. Shem atem yedim li edus, that if you know testimony for me, shetavo v'ta'iduni, that you'll come and testify. Shevuos she'en anu yodin l'cha edus, and they swear that they don't know anything. Vehem yodin lo edus. The thing is that they do know testimony, but aid mi pied. They didn't witness it themselves. They heard from somebody else who did witness it. So it's aid mi pied, a witness from a witness, not a primary first-hand account. Karv apostle, karv apostle. If one of them was a relative or otherwise apostle, maybe he's a thief. Harei p'turin. So in these cases, they are p'turin, and the Gemara is going to explain this as well. My throat is still a bit dry. So you might hear me kind of be all like throaty stuff. That's why. Shalach biad avdo, if he sent with his eved. Oh, sha'omar lo'en anitba, or if Ruvain said to Shimon, to Levi and Yehuda, Mashbia ani alechem, I'm swearing you, she'em atem yodim lo edus, that if you know testimony for Shimon, shetavo v'taiduhu, go and testify for Shimon against me. Harei l'pturin, they are piturin achishmu piyat toveh. They have to hear it from Shimon himself. Shtiko, I'm going to eat a little bit of water. Okay. Zog de Gemurah, Tanu Rabbanan, the opposite. Mashbi ani aleichem, I'm swearing you. Okay, Levi and Yehuda, Shimon says to Levi and Yehuda, come testify for me that Reuven said he's going to give me 200 zuzes. Ooh, it's a lot of zuzes. A lot of zuzes. And he didn't give me it. Yochel Yehu, Chayovin, is possible that Levi and Yehuda would be chayiv for that in such a case. Well, we have the Gzeir Shava of techto between Shevuos Eidus and Shevuos Apikadon. Nemerkan techtov nemelolim techtov malolim betvias momin v'yeshlo. Just like by Shevuos Apikadon, he's claiming money that Reuven has and that Reuven owes him. Right? Shimon says to Reuven, "Give me back my book." So Reuven has the book; he's got to give it back. So Afkan b'tvias mam v'yeshlo. So also by Shevuos ha'edus, we're talking about where Reuven certainly has the goods that need to be returned, whereas in this case that is not so, because they're going to testify, hey, Reuven, you said you're going to give 200 shipment 200 zuzas. You could say, okay, change my mind. So therefore they can't actually be mechayivim to pay. I need a little bit more water. Okay. I am swearing you that when you will know testimony from me, that you will come and testify. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, I am swearing you when you will know testimony from me, that you will come and testify. And it's possible that they will be liable to be chayav korban Shevuos ha'edus tamlomar v'shama kol ola v'hu aid. Right? It says, and he already is a witness, or he already saw, or yada, or he already knew. Misha kadma edus l'shvua. The edus needs to precede the oath. V'lo shekadma shvua le'edus, not the other way around, not the oath preceding the testimony. Amad bebeis hakneses, he stood up in the synagogue, v'omer, and he says, Mashbiani aleichem, I am swearing you, people. Even if the witnesses are in the synagogue. Pshita, that's obvious. If the witnesses were not in the synagogue, well then obviously nobody's going to be chayiv, there's no witnesses there. So obviously it's talking about where the witnesses are there. So, Lotzricha, Dekai Alayu, it's talking about a scenario where Reuven is standing, Shimon is standing adjacent to the witnesses to Levi and Yehuda, right? So Levi and Yehuda are in the synagogue, along with a lot of other people. But Shimon is standing adjacent to Levi and Yehuda, so still we're saying, Pater Ma'adutema, I would have thought, Commander Omerluhu Dami, that it's as though he's saying to them, Levi and Yehuda, come and testify for me, Kamash Malon, that it's not so. That when he stands up in the synagogue and says, I'm swearing all of you, he's not talking about Levi and Yehuda, he's talking about all of the people, and therefore it doesn't work, because he needs to specify Levi and Yehuda. In a brisa like this, if he sees a whole group of people, Omdin standing around, and Levi and Yehuda are among the group of people standing around. And he says to them, I'm swearing all y'all, Im atem yodun le'edus, that if you know testimony for me, shetavov v'tayiduni, they will come and testify for me. Yochu chayavin, is it possible to be chayavin? Tamlomer vehu aid, v'arei lo yiched edav. It says vehu aid, and he is a witness. He has to be meyached the witnesses. He has to specify who he's talking to. Yochu afilu amr kola omdin kan. What if he says all the people standing here? And we're talking about where Levi and Yehuda are standing adjacent to him. So Tamalomer Vu Aid Vare Yiched Edav. Well, he was miyachid his witnesses, right? He's referring to the Levi and Yehuda are standing right next to him. So in that case, they would be chay. But if he just kind of like says it generally about the group of people standing around, they would be they would be potter. I'm going to eat a little bit more water. I'm glad that I put together this water beforehand. He says to two people, I am swearing you to. He says to two people, I am swearing you, ploni u ploni. That if you know testimony for me, you will come and testify for me. And they know testimony, but not from a primary, not they didn't see it themselves. They heard from somebody who claims to have seen it. Or one of them was a relative or otherwise apostle. Is possible to be chayiv tamlover im lo yagid v'nosa avono b'ru'in la'agado kosam medav. It says v'lo im lo yagid v'nosa avono, that if they won't tell their testimony, then they will be sitting. But it has to be people that are fit to testify. Aid mi pied is not a valid testimony. Obviously, karovs, apostles can't testify. Right, so therefore they're going to be potter from Shevuos ha'edus in those cases, since they are unable to testify in any event. Shalach bi'ar avda v'chulei, if he sends with his eved, or Ruvain summons Levi and Yehuda, in those cases he would be potter because he has to hear directly from Shimon, who's making the claim. Right, they have to hear it directly from Shimon. Taner Rabbanan Rabbis taught Shalach be'ad Avdo, if he sent with his Eved, O Sha'omar Loin Hanitba, or Ruvain says to Levi and Yehuda, Mashbiani Aleichem, I'm swearing you, Shem Atam Yedim Lo Edus, that if you know testimony for Shimon, Shetavo v'Taidu, that you come and testify for him, Yochyu Chayavin, it's possible to be Chayiv Tam Lomer Im Lo Yagiv V'Nosa Avono. It says, well, if they don't say, then they will be sinning. My Tamuda, how does Im Lo Yagiv V'Nosa Avono? What is that? How does that prove that it has to be from Shimon directly? So Amr Reb Eliezer Im Lo Yagid Ksiv. It's written in the pasuk. It says Lamed Vav Aleph, right? So Im Lo Yagid. If to him he doesn't say V'Nos Avono V'Im La'acher Lo Yagid Potter. That Davka the refusal to testify has to be low to Shimon himself, to the Toveh, to the claimant. If it's to anybody else, whether it's to Shimon's Eved, whether it's to Reuven, it's irrelevant. Okay, Givaldig. Now we are getting up to the next Mishnah. Okay. It's good that this daf isn't like particularly difficult because I'm not sick or anything, but just like my throat's a little weird. All right. Zok the Mishnah. Mashbi'ani aleichem. I'm swearing you. Mitzvah ani aleichem. I'm mitzvahing you. Osarchem ani. I'm osarcheming you. Harelu chayavin. Well, all those languages, all those phrases work, and they'll be chayavin. Bashamayim va'aretz, by the heaven and the earth. Harei elu peturin. They are potter. Ba'alef dalid. Be-yud hey. Be-shakai, be-tzvokis, be-chanan v'rachim, be-erchapayim, be-av chesed, u'v'chol ha-kinuyin, and all of the sort of supplementary names of God. Harei elu chayavin, they'll be chayav in all those cases. So like I want you to come in the name of tzvokos or something. Hamakal b'chul and chayav divrei meir v'chacham poten. If somebody curses God, God forbid, with any of those kinuyin, Rav Meir says chayav, chacham say poten. Makal oviv imo. If somebody curses their parents with any of these kinuyim, Rameir says chacham say poter. Anybody who curses himself or a colleague or a fellow with any of them, any of these kinuyim, is violating a mitzvah's lo saise, right? Don't curse people. I think that would be anyways, fine. Yakcha Hashem, if he says God will smite you if you don't testify for me, or V'chein yakchem Elokim, or God will smite them. Zoe Allah Ksuv b'Torah. This is the curse, the Allah in the Torah, and it says right V'shama kol Allah. Okay. Al yakcha v'varcheka v'yetiv lach. He says, well, if you testify for me, then you won't get smitten. You'll be blessed. You'll have good stuff. All right. What does it mean when he says Mashbi ani aleichem? Amar of Yehuda, this way saying, Mashbi ani aleichem b'shvua amur b'Torah. I'm swearing upon you with the shvua that is written in the Torah. Mitzavani aleichem b'tzava amur b'Torah. I'm mitzvahing you with the tzava in the Torah. Right? Rashi says, Eila mitzvahs b'parshas nidar. Okay. Osarchem ani be'isr amur b'Torah. Amar Abaye says to Rav Yehuda, but Ella hadutani Reb Chia kovalchem ani are'elu chayavin koval b'raisa miksiv. But if we're talking about that all these lashonos are in the Torah, but Reb Chia says they also chayav for koval, and koval isn't in the Torah. So Elam Rabbi, rather this is what it's saying. Mashbi'a ani aleichem b'shvua, mitzava ani aleichem b'shvua, osarchem ani b'shvua, kovalchem ani b'shvua. These aren't necessarily references to the Torah, but these are kind of the showness of swearing them. All right, can I eat a little bit more water? All right. So if we're saying eating, so if eating refers to drinking also, so then can you use also like food kind of verbs for drinking? Can you say like, okay, I'm just going to take another bite of water? Dennis, does that work? Dennis, I feel like you're going to have to do some homework. This is a more difficult one. You're going to have to ask maybe artificial intelligence. You might confuse them. because they have to understand. Actually, it'll probably artificial intelligence probably already knows Masechta Shevuos, but because it's basically right. It's not an English language question. It's a philosophical question. A Talmudic philosophical question. Somebody told me a joke today. I figured that I figured after yesterday's failed attempt, maybe I'll just say something quickly. Somebody told me a joke today. He says, if I remember correctly, he says, what did the girl mushroom say to the boy mushroom? You're a fun guy. Okay, now come on. Gemara can't just... Yesterday was a complicated joke. All right, where are we? All right, where are we? Okay. Elif ba'alif daled b'yud k b'shakai b'tzfokis b'chanan v'rachum b'erchapayim b'rov chesed. Maybe the chanan v'rachum shemis nenu. Is that to say that chanan v'rachum are names of God? We have a contradiction. There are names that can be erased, and there are names that cannot be erased. The following cannot be erased. Kigoin kel, elikecho, elikim, elikechem, eki asher eki, aleph daled, v'yud k, shakai, tzfokis, elu einim chokin. Those are not non-erasable. Aval agodol, agibor, vanora, odir, v'achozek, v'omitza, izus, chanun, v'rachum, erchapayim, v'avchesed, elu einim chokin. They can be erased. So you see, Chanun v'Rachum can be erased. So clearly it's not Shem Hashem. Abaye masnisin b'mishu Chanun b'mishu Rachum kamer. When the Mishnah says Chanun v'Rachum, it means he who is merciful. He who is a synonym of merciful. God. So Amalei Rava Yochi b'Shemaim v'Aretz na b'Mishamayim v'Aretz shelo kamer. Abaye Rava challenges Abaye, but if that's the case, then we say Shamayim v'Aretz is Potter, but why don't we say B'mi Shamayim v'Aretz shelo kamer? Doesn't Shamayim v'Aretz mean he to whom the heavens and earth belong? So Chiashta Hosam came the Leka Midi Achrina Dikri Rachum v'Chanun Vadev Mishu Chanun Vadev Mishu Rachum kamer. Things by Chanun and Rachum, I mean, what else is it going to be? It's a reference to God. Hacha, but over here, by Shemayim v'Aretz, came the Ika Shemayim v'Aretz, by Shemayim v'Aretz kamer. Since there is a heaven and there is an earth, it could be that he's swearing them by heaven and earth, not by God who created the heaven and earth, and therefore they would be potter in that scenario. Tanu Rabbanan the rabbis taught, Kosav Aleph Lamed Me Elokim, Yud Hey Mei Yud Kei Vav Kei Hareze Eino Nimchok. You can't erase that because Aleph Lamed is already Shem Hashem. Yud Kei is already Shem Hashem. Shim Daled Mi Shakai, Aleph Daled Mei Adonai, Tzadi Beis Mi Tzvokis Hare Elu Nimchok. You can erase Shin Daled, Aleph Daled, Tzadi Beis. Rabbi Yossi Omer Tzvos Kulo Nimchok Shelenikra Tzvos El Hashem Yisrael. Rabbi Yossi's opinion is that Tzvos, the entire word, can be erased because it's not actually a name of God. It's referring to it's a reference to the Yidden. Shneimar Votzeis says Tzvosai. Es Ami B'nei Somi Etzim. I'll take out my legions, my Tzvos. Reference to the Yidden. Amashul in Halacha Rabbi Yossi, Shmuel says the Halacha is not like Rabbi Yossi. We don't erase Tzvos. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, called Atofel Hashem, any letter that is secondary to a Shem Hashem, Ben Milafanav Ben Milachariv, whether that letter is before, in front of the name of God, or after the name of God, how is a Nimchok, that letter can be erased. For example, the fun of Ketzad, how is it before? La Hashem, Lamed Nimchok. You can erase the Lamed. Ba Hashem, Beis Nimchok. Va Hashem, Vav Nimchok. Me Hashem, Mem Nimchok. She Hashem, Shim, Shin Nimchok. Ha Hashem, Hey Nimchok. Ka Hashem, Chof Nimchok. La'achoriv Ketzad, how so afterwards? Elokei Nu, Nu Nimchok. Elokei Hem, Hem Nimchok. Elokei Chem, Chem Nimchok. Acherim la'achoriv Eino Nimchok, Sheva Kidru Hashem, Amaravuna Alocha Kachim. The Acherim say that, no, the suffixes cannot be erased because they're already attached. They've been made holy by the name that was in front of them, right? So if you say Elokeinu, so the nu cannot be erased because it's already, the Elokei that came before that made the nu holy. Therefore it can't be erased. And says, Rav Huna, that the halacha is like that it can't be erased. Says the Gemara, Kol Shemus Amurim Batere Ba'Avram Kodesh. Whenever there's a name of God by Abraham, it is holy. Chutz mizeh, except for the following Shuchol, which is not holy. Shenemar Vayomer Hashem. No, Vayomer Adonai. Im nomatzosi chen beinecha. That Adonai is talking about the angels. He thought they appeared as people, and he said, "Please, people, my masters, please come to my tent." Chanina ben Achi Reb Yoshua ve Reb Elazar ben Azari mishum Reb Elazar Mudoy Amru Avze Kodesh. That is also holy, because he was talking to God. God, please don't go anywhere. I want to do Achnas Asorchim quickly. I will be back. Kamanazlo Ado Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Like, who does the following statement of Rav Yehuda Amar Rav go? Like Gedol Achnas Asorchim Yosem Akbalos Bnei Shechina. That welcoming in guests is even greater than receiving the Rabbeinu Shalom, the face of the divine presence. Kiman Kois Azug, like that pair, like Chanina ben Achi Reb Yoshua and Elazar ben Azai Mishum Elazar Mudai. Because they said that basically Abraham was saying to the Rabbeinu Shalom, I know I'm talking to you now, but I want to go do Achnasas Orchim, and that was acceptable. Kol Shemus Amurus Belot Chol Chutz Mizeh Shu Kodesh. All names of God by Lot are actually not referring to God, except for the following. Shenemar Vayomer Lot Aleim. Lot says to the angels while he's getting saved, Al no Adonai. When he asked to go to a different location than they were taking him to, and he says Adonai, that's a reference to the Rabbeinu Shalom. He was asking the Rabbeinu Shalom, the one who has the power to kill and to live, that is the Rabbeinu Shalom. Kol shemus amurim be novos kodesh. All names by novos are holy. Novos was the guy who Achav and Jezebel wanted to take his vineyard, but they didn't let him, and then it was a whole thing. B'micha chol, and by Micha, who had a getchke over there in the book of Judges, chol, so by Novus is holy, by Micha it is chol. Rabbi Eliezer Omer b'Novus Kodesh. Rabbi Eliezer says yes, by Novus it's Kodesh. However, b'Micha yesh men chol v'yesh men Kodesh. There are some that are not holy, some that are holy. Aleph Lamed Chol Yud Hey Kodesh. Whenever it says Aleph Lamed, it is not holy. Whenever it says Yud Hey, it is holy. Chutz mizeh, except for the following Aleph Lamed Vu Kodesh, which is Aleph Lamed, and it is holy. Kol Yimei Heyos Beiso Elohim V'Shilo. Their Elokim is holy by Micha. Kol Shemus Amurim Be Givas Binyamin. All of the names of God that are by Givas Binyamin. When the Yidden were fighting with Benjamin, they are Rabbi Eliezer Omer Chol. Rabbi Eliezer says they're not holy. Rabbi Yeshua Omer Kodesh. Rabbi Yeshua says they are holy. Omer Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says to Rabbi Yeshua, "V'chi mavtiach ve'inosa." How could it be that they are holy? Because after all, the Yidden were asking if they would be successful, and the first time they were repelled. So how could it be that if it's a Shem Hashem, that God would promise a victory and not deliver? Rabbi Yeshua responds to Rabbi Eliezer, "Mashivtiach also." No, whatever God promised, He did deliver. They didn't actually consider if they were going to succeed. They didn't ask. They didn't decipher whether they're going to win, be victorious or not. But the last time, where they did decipher, hiskimu al yodon, and then they were told that they would be victorious, and they were. Shenemar upinchas ben Elazar ben Aharon oimid lefanov bayom mahem lemor haosif od lotzis lamochama im bnei Binyamin achi im echto v'gomer. Should I go out again to fight Benjamin? Will I succeed? And then they understood from there that they will succeed, and they in fact did. Kol shloima amurin b'shir hashirim kodesh. That whenever it says shloima in shir hashirim, it is holy. Shir Lemisha Shalom Shalot, a song to he who peace is his. That's the Rabbani Shalom. Chutz mizeh, except for the following: Karmi Sheli Lefonai Ha'elef Licha Shloima Shloima Ledidei. When it says Shloima, it's referring to Shloima himself. Umasayim Lenochim Espirio, and 200 for the Nochim Espirio Rabbanan. That's a reference to the rabbi. So Shloima there is not referring to the Rabbani Shalom; it's referring to Shloima. They show them that those who say Af Zechol, also the following is Chol, is not holy. Hine Mitosu Shel Shloima Shishim, etc. That talking about, right, the Shloima's bed, there was 60 mighty warriors surrounding it, etc. There also Shloima is a reference to Shloima. One second. So we're saying even this one is also a reference to Shloima and not to Hashem, implying that certainly the first one of Karmi Sheli Lefani Elef L'cha Shloima is certainly not holy. However, Elo Ad Amar Shmuel, that which Shmuel says, Malchusa Dekatlo Chad Mishisa Be'alma Lo Mi'ansha, that which Shmuel says that a king who takes no more than 1/6 of his population for his army will be acceptable. Shenemar Karmi Sheli Lefania Elef Licha Shloima L'Machusa Dirakia. That when it says Elef Licha Shloima, that's talking about for the heavenly kingdom. So Shlomo is heavenly there. Umasayim Lenochim Espirio L'Machusa Da'ara. That is for the kingdom of the land. So meaning 1,000 are for God, 200 are for the king. So out of a total of 1,200, 200 could be for the king's army. That is 1/6. But we saw there that Shlomo is a reference to Hashem. So now we had two opinions that said that that in those two psukim, there was a first pasuk that we just quoted, which was the first pasuk, which was Karmi Sheli Lefanei Elef L'cha Shloima. So we said that is not holy, and then we said, and also Hine Mitosu Shel Shlomo is also not holy. But according to Shmuel, that first pasuk is holy. So who's that like? It's like neither the first opinion nor the Yesh Omer. Right? So Shmuel lo ketanakama v'lo Yesh Omer. He's saying like neither opinion, because both opinions are saying that the pasuk of Karmi Sheli Lefanai Ha'elef L'cha Shlomo is not holy, but Shmuel says it is holy. So Ela Achi Kamer v'Yesh Omer, those who say Zeh Kodesh, that the first pasuk is holy, V'zehu Chol, and only the second pasuk is not holy, Demitasu, which refers to Shlomo's bed, Ushmuel Dam Yesh Omer, and Shmuel is saying like the Yesh Omer. Whenever it says kings in the book of Daniel, Chol, they are not holy, Chutz Mizeh, except for the following Shu Kodesh, which is holy. Ant Malka, you king, I think that's a reference to Nebuchadnezzar. Melech Malchaya di Elo Shmaya, God, who is the king, the King of Kings, who is the God of heavens. Malchusa Chisno v'Sakba v'Yikara Yoav Lach, he gave you a good kingdom. So there, the Melech Malchai de Elo Shmaya is a reference to God. V'Yesham Af Zekodesh, and those who say also the following is holy. Shenemar Mare Chelma L'Sanach Ufashre L'Arach, that this bad dream should be on your enemies. Naman Karma, who's he talking about? Isa Gadaitich Nebuchadnezzar. If we be talking about this bad dream for Nebuchadnezzar's enemies, Kamar Le Sin Use Maininu, who are Nebuchadnezzar's enemies? Yisrael. Melat Kalaitlu Yisrael. Who are Nebuchadnezzar's enemies? The Yidden. What would Daniel be saying? That a curse should be upon the Yidden? Of course not. So rather, it must be a reference to God. God's enemies should have bad stuff happen to them. The Tanakama Sover Soni Yisrael Iko Soni of the Chavim Leka, whereas the Tanakama who says that it's referring to Nebuchadnezzar. It's not like Nebuchadnezzar only has Jewish enemies; he also has non-Jewish enemies. So the bad dream should be for them. Shnaikis. Okay, well that was the Lamed Hey Shevuos. Yeah, we learned a bunch of halachis in the first mission that we learned today, and then we learned about a bunch of technical things in the second mission that we learned today. Peace out.